Hello guys and welcome to another ESPN video. We are live in Rabat. We're in the Prince Moulay Stadium. We're in a media room. The media rooms are very nice. Myself and Sam are here for Morocco versus Cameroon, which is going to be a huge game. But before, there's some big business happening tomorrow, of course. Algeria versus Nigeria. We're joined by the one and only Colin Udoh. Thank you so much for joining us again, sir. And Sam Ogunleye, who is he could be to my left, he could be to my right, but we'll keep the illusion alive for now. Colin, I know you've written a piece about this because there's a load of history in this fixture, going throughout the years at AFCON and so many other games. Could you give us a bit of history behind this fixture before we preview tomorrow's game?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot, and I could go on and on and talk for hours about it. But yeah, I think these two teams first met, I think, at the All Africa Games all the way back in 1973. I'm not sure how many of you were born by then. Yeah. That was the All Africa Games in Lagos, and Nigeria won that game 2 goals. Sorry, it was 2-2. I beg your pardon, and then. They played again the All Africa Games in Algiers. Algeria won 1-0. But I think the game that I guess is the one that stands out the most among these teams, it was that game in 1988 where they played in Rabat at the AFCON. And that game ended in a 1-1 draw. It went to penalties. It was an insane, epic penalty shootout. And part of the reason why that game was so massive was because they had played an Olympic qualifier just a few months earlier, I think in January. And over 2 legs, Nigeria won 2-1. And then the game, I think, 1-1. And Lakhdar Beloumi, who was Algeria's star player at the time, said after that game that, well, if they meet at the AFCON in Rabat in 88, that's when they're going to know who the better team is. So going into that game, there was plenty of tension. There was drama. There was suspense. There was everything. And it just kind of went. First of all, we scored through an own goal. They scored. And then it went to extra time. And unfortunately, it was Beloumi who had made all of the pre-game talking, whose penalty kick was saved by Peter Rufai to get Nigeria through. So it's been a remarkable history of games between these two sides. Unfortunately, recent history has not favored the Super Eagles. The last time they won against Algeria was in 2016 when they beat them 3-1 in the World Cup qualifier in Uyo. Since then, Algeria have won. In 2019, they beat the Super Eagles in the semifinals of the AFCON in Cairo. And then in the last 2 games, friendly games, they beat Nigeria in 2020, 1-0 in Austria. And again, latest one, 2022, they won 2-1 against Nigeria and fell in all right. So, chance for Nigeria to reverse a 10-year sort of non-winning streak. So, yeah, should be a very interesting one.
Yeah, so by the recent history, it's not looking good for us.
No.
But this is a big chance to turn that around. Sam, I wanted to ask you because I know we've been on the ground here and we were at the Algeria-Congo game. And the Algeria fans, the song that is like the chorus of our trip so far is Maze Nigeria, Maze. So they're very confident. How are you feeling going into this game, bro?
It's an interesting one. I think this game, for myself, and I think a lot of Nigeria fans as well, it's almost a bit of a revenge game, regardless of who we're going to play in the quarterfinals. Because if we were to play DR Congo, it obviously would have been a revenge game, for what happened in the World Cup qualifiers. But then now Algeria, who knocked us out of the Africa Cup in 2019, a tournament that we felt we could go to the final and maybe even win, it's like now we're kind of been in a position now to maybe get revenge against them. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game. I think one of the positives from Nigeria is the fact that we scored a lot of goals. This is something that we didn't do at the previous AFCON, but it's almost been flipped on its head because our defense has been a bit, shaky, but we're off the back of a clean sheet against Mozambique. So going into this game, I think there's a lot of confidence all round. I know there's been a lot of madness that's happened this week with the Ademola Lookman and Osimhen situation, and obviously the unpaid, bonuses and wages, etc. for this competition. Something we've all heard before. So I'm hoping we can go into this game and put all of that behind us and actually go out there and perform, because it's a very, very big game. And if I'm being honest, I think Nigeria have a great chance to go through.
It's a huge game indeed, for sure. And I don't think that can be taken away. But obviously, you mentioned there, Sam, that we've scored a lot of goals. Nigeria scored a lot of goals in this tournament, but also Algeria have scored a lot of goals in this tournament, 8 goals over the 4 games. Riyad Mahrez with 3 goals. And if the whole team is contributing, by the way, Mazar with 2 goals. So they're looking like they could be strong in attack as well. Colin, what in terms of Algeria, what do you think we have to concentrate most on, I guess, from a Nigeria perspective? Should we be just as aware as their threat as they are aware of Nigeria's?
Oh, yeah, certainly. And, especially for a team that leaks an average of a goal per game like Nigeria, you've got to be careful when you've got Bensebaini and Mahrez, Benacho coming at you. Especially one of the things that concerns me a little bit, and I was just thinking about it while watching this Mali-Senegal game, is the fact that we've got 3 players on yellow cards who could possibly miss the semi-final if the Super Eagles make it. Wilfred Ndidi, Frank Onyeka, and Calvin Bassey. But the one that gives me the most cause for concern is Calvin Bassey. He's the leader of that defense. He's arguably the best defender we've got at the moment. And so if he starts playing on tenterhooks, then you know that there's going to be a problem, especially the Algerians are going to want to target him a little bit if they realize that he's on a yellow card and might miss the semi-final. But the thing with him is he's usually a very clean player. He doesn't get that many yellow cards. So I'm hoping that, he can keep his wits about him and not get sucked into all of the whatever it is that's going to be going on right there. But having said that, I think that our team is strong enough to get the goals they need. And if they can continue with the Mozambique sort of like game of not conceding, I believe that they should be able to keep back that Algeria team. But it's a different level of quality between, apart from Tunisia, between the teams they faced so far and Algeria. And when you get into the knockout stages, that level just seems to, elevate just that little bit more. But the good news is, maybe going back to a little bit of history, Nigeria have the best, in fact, a phenomenal record at the African Nations Cup quarterfinals. They've played 11 quarterfinal games, along with Ghana, I believe, Cameroon, and Egypt. And Nigeria, they've played 11 quarterfinal games, and they've won 10, and only, lost 1. No other team comes even close. I think the next highest about 6 games. And Algeria, by contrast, have played 6, won just 2, and drawn and lost and been out on 4 occasions. So just looking at those numbers alone, the goals Nigeria have scored, their record at the African Nations Cup quarterfinals, and also how confident the team are right now, you've got to think that the odds will be in Nigeria's favor.
Colin is filling me with confidence here, man. Despite
I got to.
Despite the stakes obviously being higher. So I'm going to ask you about that actually, because we kind of got I won't say cooked, but a few people questioned our opinion when we said about the teams we faced thus far in the tournament. And I guess obviously the stakes being higher, is that going to play its it definitely will play its part tomorrow. But how much of an effect do you think it will have on the game for Nigeria? That is anyway.
I would say that. I know a lot of people weren't happy with my comment last time when I said that Nigeria haven't played a big team at this tournament yet. And the reason why I said that is because when you look at the level that Nigeria have been playing at compared to the level those other teams have been playing at, it's just not up to par. Like Nigeria have been, 10 steps ahead of all of those nations, including Tunisia. The Tunisia that I think we expected to turn up in that game didn't turn up. We cruised past them. I know those last kind of 15 minutes were a bit, shaky, but that just goes down to, some of the defensive, I would say, things that we need to deal with at the moment. But I think overall, this is Nigeria's biggest test of the tournament so far. When you look at the teams we played previously, you could argue that, that none of them are better than Algeria. So if we can get past Algeria on Saturday, you have to now start to believe that Nigeria can go all the way to the final, in my opinion. Algeria is one of the strongest teams in this tournament so far, one of the strongest teams in Africa. So, yeah, this is a big one for me. And I think this is like the hardest game so far in the tournament.
100%. This is definitely going to be the most difficult game for Nigeria at the tournament thus far. I guess turning our attentions to the game, we're at Morocco, Cameroon, and just saying all goes well for Nigeria, they get through. Colin, who would you rather face in this tournament? Cameroon is a strong team, but Morocco the host. Who would you rather face in that semi-final if Nigeria were to get there?
In honesty, it doesn't matter. End of the day, look, Cameroon are rivals. They've cost us a lot of AFCON wins. I think in '88, in fact, 3 of Cameroon's 5 AFCON wins came against Nigeria. So there's always a reason to want to play and beat Cameroon just because of that. Having said that, Morocco are the host, so you've got to think that when you play against the host, especially in North Africa, it's always tough. When North African teams host the tournament, they're always hard to beat. So, although look, in fairness, I would think that Nigeria's style is more suited to beating North African teams than it is to the slugfest that will be a game against say fellow West and Central Africans like Cameroon. But having said that, like I said, it don't matter. I mean, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So, and at the end of the day, I think Nigeria are showing that they've got the quality to be rated among the best teams in this tournament. And in fairness, to look, I agree that the Super Eagles have not really played strong opposition, but then when you think about it, neither has anybody else. During the group stages, anything is possible, and you can only beat the teams that you've got in front of you. And I think that as good as the DRC were, Tunisia even struggled against them, and it wasn't as if they were like some spectacular unit playing football. If we took our chances against them during the World Cup qualifier in the first half, we could have won that game. So I do believe that at this stage, I've got to look at the quality of the teams left, and I think Nigeria in the top three. I don't think Algeria are.
I want to touch on something you just mentioned there, Colin. You said like the North African teams, our style might favor playing those teams over the West African teams, as in that might be like more of a slugfest. Do you mean in sense of like against the West African team, it might be more all-out attack, like attack versus attack, whereas a North African team, it might be a bit more pragmatic? Is that kind of what you're leaning towards when you say that?
Yeah, a little bit of both. We'd say Ghana, Cameroon, there's say Ivory Coast, it's a lot more physical, and it's very physical, and so it gets into sort of like the trenches, But with the North Africans, apart from their gamesmanship, when they try and do all manner of things to con the referee and con the other teams, it's a bit more tactical, a bit more technical. And when you look at the guys that we have, we play a very, very technical, tactical kind of game. So in many ways, we're very well suited to playing against them, especially the way the current team is set up in that 4-4-2 diamond, which encourages a lot of technical football and control in central areas.
Makes sense, man. Makes a lot of sense. So let's go for it then, guys. The prediction. Sam, I'll start with you because I can already see you're smiling, man. What is your prediction for the game tomorrow?
Guys, if I'm being honest with you, I think I'm going to struggle with my prediction here. But I genuinely think, and I've been having conversations with the guys this week, that Nigeria can go into this game and win it. And I would go all out and say that they're favourites to win it here. So if I had to pick a prediction, I think that Nigeria will get the job done in extra time and the score will be 2-1.
I like that prediction a lot. Colin, can I get a prediction from you for tomorrow's game?
This is those kind of games that can either be very tight or can just completely explode, So, and when I look at it, this team, when you look at the history of this fixture, it's either been won by, a slim margin, or it has gone on to be like a blowout. Although, in fairness, the only time Algeria actually had a big win was in 1990 when they won 5-0 in that opening game at the All Just 90 AFCON. And part of the reason why they won that was because, and a little bit of history to back that up here, is that going into that tournament, Clemens Westerhoff, who was just been appointed Nigeria coach, got into some issues with his more veteran, experienced players, and so kind of cast them aside and took a young group of players to the AFCON, and that was almost like their first experience of playing at that level, and they got absolutely clobbered 5-0 by Algeria. But that team bounced back, got to the final where they played against Algeria again, and they only lost by 1-0. So beyond that, every time the game has the goals have gone like haywire, has been Nigeria in 1993. when they came for the World Cup qualifier in Lagos, they got beaten 4-1 with Yekini scoring that what we call the spectacular, the impossible goal from almost from the corner flag. And then the World Cup qualifier, I think in 2005, we went there and beat them 5-2 when we were trying to qualify for the World Cup. Unfortunately, we lost it out to Angola on head-to-head. And then in 2016, the World Cup qualifier again, they came in confident, thinking, yep, they're going to get something here, and they got clobbered 3-1. So when the goals have been high, for the most part, Nigeria have won it. When it's been tight, it's gone either way. So I'm going to look at this and look at Nigeria's quarterfinal record, look at the way both teams have played at this tournament so far, and then look at the historical perspective and think this is probably going to favor Nigeria. And it can be a close win, or, I mean, let's assume now that, with all of the stuff that's going on, Osimhen, Lookman, and co, they kind of like get their things together and they get on that feeling. They're like, you know what, guys, we've given Nigerian fans way too much problems. Let's go out there now and show them that we can actually play. If they get it right, these guys can score 4 or 5 goals against Algeria. So I'm thinking Nigeria by 4-1.
Ooh, okay, that's a big prediction. Yes. Okay, the Super Eagles on this podcast, anyway, we're looking confident. But we are going to go and we're going to have the privilege to watch Morocco versus Cameroon. And we'll be doing some more reaction after that. And we will be back after the Nigeria-Algeria game tomorrow. So, Colin Udoh, thank you so much for joining us again. And we'll
thank you.
Talk. Are you going to be in Morocco at all over the next week?
I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I mean, if they make it to the final, I might think about it. But if not, yeah, I mean, if they make it to the final, possibly. But at this point, no.
Okay. So, Super Eagles, you have your mission. If you want Colin out here, you have to get to the final. Okay, guys, we'll see you on the next video.
Mm-hmm.